One should not search for numerous proofs for every argument, but instead rely on strong and clear reasoning. A person must use what is clear and easily understood as a means to uncover what is hidden or uncertain. Above all, a philosopher must not only speak wisely but also live in accordance with his teachings. Philosophy benefits a person only when wise instruction is paired with actions that reflect those lessons. Every human being is naturally inclined toward living with virtue and wisdom, not just some, but all. Unlike various crafts that require training, virtue is an innate potential within all people, waiting to be developed. Since men and women possess the same capacity for virtue, both must receive equal education and moral training. Just as animals and plants flourish when given proper care, so too do people develop virtue through guidance and education. Through education, both boys and girls gain wisdom equally, without distinction. To reject greed, uphold justice, and act with kindness toward others is among the highest teachings, shaping a person into someone truly virtuous. Essential knowledge should not be limited to one group but shared equally among all. If one asks what kind of education fosters such a life, the answer is philosophy, for just as men require it to be fully educated, so do women. Philosophy is nothing more than a path to cultivating noble character. Learning what is right comes before doing what is right, for theory guides action. Yet in reality, practice holds greater power than theory, since action is what leads to change. Virtue is not just something to be studied, it must be applied in daily life, just like medicine or music. There are two types of training, one for the mind alone, and another for both body and mind. The latter involves strengthening oneself through exposure to heat and cold, hunger and thirst, modest living, self-restraint, and endurance of hardships. Those who seek wisdom must train themselves to reject indulgence, embrace difficulty, remain unattached to life, be fearless in the face of death, and prioritize generosity over personal gain. The purpose of becoming virtuous is to achieve happiness and to live joyfully for the rest of one's life. One cannot become good, just, or disciplined without enduring challenges. Those unwilling to put forth effort deny themselves what is good, for all worthy things come through labor. Embrace hardship rather than shrink from it. A leader ought to be a student of philosophy, for it is not only fitting but necessary. He must act as a fair judge among his people, ensuring that each receives what is rightfully theirs, whether honor or punishment, without excess or deficiency. A leader must first master himself before governing others, setting an example of self-discipline. He should require the same restraint from his people, for recklessness in either the leader or the citizens leads to destruction. It cultivates in a person the ability to rise above indulgence and greed, to value moderation over excess, to develop self-restraint in speech, and to uphold discipline, order, and decorum in both actions and manner. In my view, a just leader is necessarily a philosopher, and a true philosopher possesses the qualities of a good leader. A doctor remains a doctor whether he heals one or many, as long as he has skill in his craft. Likewise, a musician is no less a musician whether he teaches many students or just a few, so long as he understands music. A person does not crave excess unless they have grown accustomed to luxury. When a person is insulted and does not retaliate, they do no wrong. The one who commits the offense shames himself, while the one who endures it without acting unjustly has nothing to be ashamed of. Seeking revenge and repaying harm with harm is the way of wild animals, not rational human beings. A truly good man cannot be harmed by a wicked one, yet people often claim they have been wronged while insisting on their own virtue. The earth rewards those who tend to it, giving back far more than it receives and providing all that is necessary for those willing to labor, without diminishing their dignity. Since the land offers an honest livelihood to those who cultivate it, farming is the most appropriate occupation for a philosopher. A life of indulgence and excess is not only about wealth and comfort but also about unchecked desires. The immoral do not truly trust or align with one another, much less with those who are virtuous. If a person believes that each should act only in self-interest, they reduce humanity to the level of wild animals, creatures that survive by force and take whatever they can, without regard for justice, cooperation, or shared purpose. If we acknowledge that humans are like bees, unable to survive alone but thriving in shared effort and cooperation, then we must recognize that working for the good of others is natural and necessary. Every person has a responsibility to care for his community and ensure his home serves as a strong foundation for its well-being. The first step in securing this foundation is marriage, for without it, the home, the city, and humanity itself would fall into ruin. It is clear that neither a household nor a city thrives through the efforts of men alone or women alone, but through their cooperation and unity. The pursuit of philosophy is nothing more than using reason to discover what is right and then applying it in one's actions. The role of philosophy is not merely for scholars to debate ideas, but for all people to reflect upon their duty and commit themselves to it. If a person truly listens to wise teachings and applies them, he will handle old age wisely. Most importantly, he will free himself from the fear of death, which troubles many as if they had forgotten that death is an inevitable part of life. If in old age a person learns to face death without fear and with dignity, they have gained an essential part of what it means to live in harmony with nature. Money can provide physical pleasures such as food, drink, and comfort, but it cannot bring lasting joy or free its owner from grief. Self-discipline in food and drink is the foundation of moderation. Just as one should choose simple and readily available food over costly delicacies, so too should one live in accordance with what is natural rather than artificial. Overindulgence and extravagant living are disgraceful, and few would argue otherwise, yet few make a real effort to avoid them. Of all the temptations that lead people away from what is right, the desire for food may be the most difficult to resist. To avoid falling into excess, a person must train himself to choose food for its nourishment rather than its taste, valuing health over indulgence. Just as plants take in nutrients to live rather than for pleasure, so too should humans see food as a means to sustain life rather than a source of indulgence. Clothing and footwear, like armor, should serve to protect the body rather than to attract attention. The best clothing is that which serves its purpose, not that which draws the gaze of the vain and foolish. The only true benefit of clothing is when it strengthens and protects the body, rather than serving as decoration. Far better than a life of luxury is one spent in service to others. It is far more rewarding to cultivate friendships through generosity than to build a grand house. What true value does a lavish home hold compared to using one's wealth to uplift one's community? The value of material possessions should be judged by three things: how easily they are acquired, how useful they are, and how well they can be maintained. Those that are difficult to obtain, impractical, or hard to preserve are of lesser worth, while those that are accessible, useful, and lasting are of greater value. Many fail to recognize what is truly valuable, instead chasing after things that only appear desirable. Since indulgence and excess lead to injustice, they must be rejected entirely. In all things, reason should guide us to make up for what is lacking in nature while also avoiding excess.